It's always depressing when a star attached to a famous franchise passes away before said franchise is over. We felt it with Chadwick Boseman, and Gen V is making us feel it with Chance Perdomo because they've managed to honor his character beautifully. Every single episode of Season 2 has Andre Anderson's presence, and in many ways, more than the first season, because they turned his dad into a regular. Throughout Season 2, Polarity has been on a mission to avenge his son. In fact, he's already made contact with the killer multiple times. But the irony of this situation is that he'll probably get killed by the same thing that killed his son before he can ever do something meaningful. So in this video, we'll take a look at Polarity's sickness, and how it can become an unexpected weapon against the most dangerous character in all of Gen V, Cipher. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Polarity's power is a double-edged weapon. His neural micro-tears explained. Polarity and his son use the power of magnetism to manipulate metal. It's basically what Magneto does, except the Andersons aren't Omega-level mutants. They can mess shit up, don't get us wrong, but they can't lift entire bridges or stop meteorites by manipulating the metal within them. That's because their powers have a dangerous side effect. They cause literal brain damage. Polarity gets his name from magnetic polarity. It's only when the opposing magnetic forces come close to one another that they attract one another. And this can pretty much be anything when you expand what constitutes magnetism. Of course, it would need to involve metal, but theoretically speaking, Polarity can sense and manipulate metal as easily as he can breathe. But the cost of doing such a thing is quite high, because every time Polarity uses his power, it causes tears within his brain's neural network. Normally, this would be impossible, because the brain should not be connected to the system of magnetic forces that he uses to attract and repel things. But the reason it affects Polarity is because the brain emits electromagnetic waves. This means his power indirectly affects him, because whenever he activates his magnetism, he presumably uses his mind to do it. This has caused several micro-tears within his brain that are slowly causing neural death, and if he overdoes it, he could die pretty much instantly. That's how Andre left the world in the series canon, because he tried opening a massive metal door at Elmira that he knew was way out of his league. The door was made of metal so dense that Andre literally seized to death, and we've seen a similar thing happen with Polarity in Gen 5 Season 2. The long and the short of it is he's basically losing control over his nervous system, and that's causing symptoms that even a genius like Cipher can't reverse. As for what these symptoms are, using his powers makes him dangerous to all around him. The first sign of the neural micro-tears is losing control over your extremities, causing involuntary motion. We saw this in the first 3 episodes of Gen V, when Polarity met Emma for the first time. While he was wallowing in whiskey and adult entertainment of the soup variety, his hand started shaking and he had to hold it really tight to make it stop. When Polarity and Emma visited the archives at Goldolkin University, his powers to detect and manipulate metal had devolved so much that he couldn't sense a secret room hidden behind the metal cabinets. When he moved it with his powers, he started twitching again, and he barely managed to keep his body in control after the fact. Then we saw Polarity having a complete power breakdown in one of the recent episodes, and it was scary. He was by himself in his house when he started experiencing a full-on seizure. But what made it even worse was the fact that he completely lost control over his powers. Everything metal in his living area/kitchen starts going haywire, and it's honestly a miracle that he somehow doesn't get caught up in them. We see a pair of scissors and a knife going bonkers right next to his body, but thanks to plot armor, they don't attack Polarity himself. Now we can argue that his body created a protective shield around him on instinct, but that's just it. Seizures shut down bodily functions, so it was impossible for Polarity to have such protection in the first place. The truth is, he just got really lucky. Even luckier that he was home alone when all this happened, because if he'd had a seizure around other people, there's no telling how badly he'd have hurt them. That Polarity scene where he unintentionally makes everything fly would have been a lot worse if, say, Marie or Emma were there, because they would have no idea how to stop the sharp, pointy metal things that were being propelled at them. They'd probably been stabbed to death on accident. And that would have really ramped up the stakes of the series, because losing Marie means losing the world. Now yes, with her newfound powers, she could have easily fixed herself, but fixing a friend is a different story, because as we saw when she resurrected Annabeth, it causes immense pain to everyone else in her vicinity. In fact, at this point, Marie is probably the only one who can heal Polarity, but the big question is whether she'll be able to make it to him on time. That's because he's been exposed as someone who's plotting against Cipher. And in fact, just last episode, Cipher held him prisoner within his own home. But there was one interesting thing that happened during that episode that proved to us that Polarity's sickness might just be Cipher's kryptonite. Because, is Polarity sickness the key to defeating Cipher? Cipher's ability to control other people is the most broken ability we've seen in this franchise. It basically gives him the power to do whatever he wants, and if Cipher and Victoria Newman had swapped places, then Vought would have been in control of America a long time ago. He basically enslaved Polarity in Season 2, Episode 6, when he used his body to sniff out the location of his accomplices. Cipher kept humiliating Polarity by making him hit himself over and over, until there came a point when Polarity had enough. At that moment, we saw that Cipher's hand, which was supposed to affect Polarity, started vibrating, and that made him pause long enough for Polarity to blast him out of his home. Now, the first interpretation of this rare lapse in Cipher's power can be Polarity's extreme willpower in the moment. He did look like he'd had enough of being slapped around by himself, and he'd also just learned that Cipher planned on killing 75% of God-used student population to quote-unquote force an evolution. Polarity is a guy who rose up in his world by playing his cards right. But as of Season 2, he doesn't care about status, fame, or riches. All he cares about is justice for his son's death, and that's definitely made him a lot more heroic than he used to be. Maybe learning that all those kids are going to die just like Andre made him feel so resilient that he was able to overcome Cipher's mind control. But here's the thing, what if that wasn't a voluntary act? What if Polarity got lucky and Cipher lost control of himself for a different reason? You'll notice that the way his hand shook was quite similar to how Polarity's hand shakes when he's having one of his nervous breakdowns. And no, we don't mean panic attacks, we mean when his nervous system starts going haywire. We do know that Cipher doesn't exactly take control of another person's mind, he simply commandeers it by forcing them to give up the wheel. Jordan told Marie that even though Cipher fought her through them, they could still feel everything and see everything, because they were buried in the back of their own mind. This means that Cipher's mind control ability works by cohabitating with a person's psyche, not erasing it and taking it over. If that's true, then Cipher's power should be relatively useless against people with brain damage, because it would endanger his power's efficiency as well. And that's exactly what seems to have happened here. Because Cipher entered Polarity's mind, which has several neural micro-tears, he started losing control over his body. Because Polarity's mind started melting down. This moment gave Andre's dad enough of a chance to recuperate, and he blasts Cipher out of his home, who then runs away as fast as he can. Maybe Cipher realized that Polarity's condition makes him somewhat immune to mind control, because if he didn't, he'd have no reason to run away like that. He could have just tried controlling him again, because that's the kind of guy he is. If this is true, then Polarity's condition might be the key to taking him down, because Polarity is the one person he will now avoid controlling entirely. In a bittersweet twist of fate, the very illness Cipher was trying to study in Andre could come back and get him as well. And that's why we made this video. While it's true that Marie can fix Polarity, and so there's no point discussing his illness in detail, this last episode's revelations blew the whole picture wide apart. Now, there's potentially two different ways through which Cipher can be neutralized, using Kate's restored powers and using Polarity's unexpected new one. But the real question is, which one will be used, and which one will prove most effective? Cipher knows that the God Yu-Gang is coming for him, and that it's only a matter of time before Marie stops cooperating out of curiosity. He's getting ready for the final phase of his plan for her, which could involve forcing her to restore Thomas Goldokin. If Polarity is in the building when this happens, and he somehow gets Cipher to focus on himself instead of mind-controlling Marie or someone else, then that's the only scenario where the good guys can take advantage of chaos, because there's a high chance Polarity will make all the metal in his vicinity go haywire as well. But this is just our theory about why his sickness has become such a key part of Gen V Season 2. It isn't just to honor the memory of Andre Anderson / Chance Perdomo, it also functions as a plot device that could potentially break the series. Marvelous verdict. So now that we've shared with you our thoughts on Polarity's sickness, we'd like to know yours. Will he take out Cipher intentionally? Or will he take out his newfound friends unintentionally? Head on down to the comments section and let us know what you guys think about Polarity's condition, and its importance to the ending of Gen V Season 2. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this, and we'll see you guys real soon with another Gen V video.